right, hello and welcome to the 2022 UAF Arctic Innovation Competition presented by Usabelli Coal Mine. My name is Ashley Plies and I am a UAF College of Business and Security Management student studying accounting, as well as a member of the AIC team. I am so excited to be your MC this evening as I bring AIC straight to your home. Every year, AIC receives so many creative and innovative ideas, but after a round of preliminary screening, only 6 submissions have made it to the semifinals in the Cup division for youth aged 12 and under. These competitors will be receiving AIC backpacks, Cold Stone Creamery gift cards, medals or ribbons, and cash prizes ranging from $50 to $500. Of course, we have an expert panel of judges joining us tonight. I would like to quickly introduce them, starting off with Peter Webley, who is our Cup Division Judges Chair, represents the UAF Office of Intellectual Property and Commercialization. Celeste Bouchard represents Kinross Fort Knox. And last but certainly not least, is Evan Wilkin from the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we'll start getting ready on presentations. Cup competitors will have 3 minutes each to present, followed by 3 minutes of questions. All right, innovative minds think of solutions to many problems they encounter, and a perfect example of this is Brooks and Bridger Pinney. This duo submitted 8 ideas in the 2022 AIC and will be presenting 4 ideas for us this evening. The first idea Brooks will be presenting is the community co-op shops in honor with his brother as well, though he's not there. All right, Brooks, are you able to see your slides for the first presentation? Perfect, all right. Well, remember to unmute and give us a thumbs up when you're ready.
I think I'm ready. Should I start?
Looks like they're getting the timer ready. Once it hits 3 minutes, we'll have you start. Just a couple of technical difficulties. I wouldn't be complete without them. All right, while we wait, Brooks, how about you tell me a little bit about AIC in general? I know you submitted 8 ideas this year and have submitted ideas previously. Anything fun about that?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. How do you come up with so many ideas? I know you and your brother seem to have so many of them.
Most of the time we're just talking about stuff in the car or in drives, and then we try to come up with a solution for it, for problems and stuff.
That's awesome. Well, looks like they got the timer figured out, so we'll have you start right now.
Okay, so my idea was community co-op shops for neighborhoods because garages are really full of stuff, and a lot of people, like half of all Americans, say that their garage is the most cluttered space in their home. Next slide. Well, actually, yeah, the problem was that the garages look like, or basically like a jungle when you're trying to find stuff in them. So it's practically impossible. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. The big idea is that we could have these little sheds that 15 houses share, and they put their stuff in them, and there'd be an really organized system where you can't really lose anything, and everyone would share, so not as much stuff would go into the landfills, and not as much stuff would end up going into the ocean, just destroying wildlife and stuff. Next slide. Pretty much everyone on the planet would benefit because everyone would save money because they wouldn't have to buy as much stuff for themselves. If one broke, then everyone would pitch in to help rebuy it and stuff. But if your own thing broke, you'd have to pay all the money for it. And on this, you wouldn't. You just have to pay a portion of it. And the whole town benefits because there is low crime and it boosts mental health, and there wouldn't be as much stuff in the landfills. And yeah, next slide. It can be 3D printed, prefabricated for neighborhoods that can't afford it as easily, and it will be large for some and small for others, depending on what they need. Did the time run out?
Bridger, you're good. Go ahead and keep presenting.
Okay. It will be successful because it's a solution to greening communities, and the neighborhoods the prices of the houses, more people would want to buy them. They would sell faster because, like a neighborhood with a playground, more people would want to buy it because it has something extra in the neighborhood that's easy to get to. And this one, you wouldn't have to pay as much money for stuff like things in your garage. So more people would want to buy it because buy the houses, because they would be saving money if they lived there besides anywhere else. Next slide. We can launch it in Alaska cities. It's like in some of the larger cities first, and then try to get it to the whole world. Next slide. Next slide. Research shows that Americans spend $2.7 billion every year replacing items that they couldn't find. 54% of Americans are overwhelmed by the clutter they have in their garages, and people that care make safe neighborhoods and build build thriving communities. And only 15 years of landfill capacity remains nationwide, in some places less. So like only 15 years each landfill has before it can't be used anymore because there's too much stuff. Next slide. It would be easy to buy because a shed costs about $4,000, and 15 houses could be able to share one shed, costing the homeowner $260 for all the benefits it offers. The long-term cost to maintain all equipment and buy new basically it would like make long-term effects on the environment because there wouldn't be as much trash, because if one thing broke in the shed versus one per each house, it would be a lot less that would get broken and put in the landfill, and not as much money would be spent trying to buy those things. Only one or two, depending on what it means. And that about wraps it up.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brooks. That was great in the face of technical difficulties, which is always difficult. Now we will turn it over to the judges. Judges, you will each have an opportunity to ask one question each. And then if there's time left over, we'll open it up to any additional questions. In the chat, I've just sent the order of questions. And keep in mind, you will have 3 minutes. So Peter, you'll start us off.
Thanks, Ashley, and great presentation, Brooks. Really cool idea. My question is, for the equipment in these co-op sheds, who would donate them, or would they be new equipment purchased, or would it be provided by the community members themselves? So 15 people, each person would donate one item, or would they have to purchase new equipment?
I think that each person could donate one thing, but it depends. Like, not every neighborhood needs every single item that would be in there. So, like, it depends on what the neighborhoods do. Like, some might be woodworkers and have a lot of woodworkers in it, so they might need woodworking supplies. Some of them might be like golfing and sports, so then they'd have a lot of sports supplies in there. Just depends on what is needed for the neighborhood. But yeah, they would donate one or two items depending on the neighborhood need.
Perfect, thank you.
Awesome. And yes, again, really cool idea. I actually really like this idea. One thing I would wonder though is what exactly happens if someone borrows something and then doesn't hand it back? Is that up to the neighborhoods to decide? Or did you plan on banning people who keep doing this or anything like that?
Every month there'd be a different person in control of the co-op shop. And that person would keep track of all the items, and if one was missing, the last person who borrowed it, they'd have to write it down on a sheet of paper or something, and the person who's in charge would go get it back from them. And if they broke it somehow, then and they didn't tell anyone for a while, then they'd probably have to pay for it themselves because they're not here.
Okay.
Hi, Brooks. Yeah, really neat idea. So I know this idea is kind of on the neighborhood level, which I think is really neat. But do you think that it could be expanded to serve an entire town?
It could, but it's if everyone used one thing, lots of people, if it's sunny out, they might want to mow their lawn that day because they don't want to mow it in terrible weather. So then if it was like for a whole town, they'd probably need a lot of one item to be able to make sure that one person couldn't be, or more people couldn't have the problem of not having the thing that they need on a specific day. So it could serve a whole town, yeah, but it would have to be pretty big as well.
That's a really good point. Thank you.
Yeah, to fit everything in there.
Thank you so much, judges, for your wonderful questions. And thank you so much, Brooks, for being our first up tonight. Our second Cub presentation is from a group, the Gadget Girls team, made of Shannon Burgess, Charlie Clark, Leah Llewellyn, and Alex Lorenzana, explaining their submission, The Cluck Box. Lauren Burgess, the fifth Gadget Girl, could not join us tonight, but also contributed to this amazing team. All right, and as everyone's getting moved over, looks like we have just about everyone. All right, can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Just a thumbs up. Perfect. All right. Awesome. All right. Just remember to watch the countdown clock and just give a big thumbs up when you're ready.
Shannon, Charlie, are you guys on?
Or I think I'm on.
Yeah, I'm on. Is Lauren on? Is Lauren gonna be on the same screen as you, Shannon? Guys, Charlie.
Okay,
All right.
start.
All right.
Next.
Next slide. 11% of chicks usually die during shipment, but that can be as high as 100%. In Alaska, temperatures can get as high as 90 degrees Fahrenheit and as low as negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Chickens are held in cramped boxes with no food or water or heating or cooling. If chickens are in their box for more than 72 hours, they will starve.
If chicken shipment is delayed or owners don't pick them up in the time, they will die. Next slide. Our Cluck Chicken Lovers United Cooperation Kit box provides food and water through a substance called Gel, which has proteins that a chick needs, and it is very inexpensive. We also have a pop-up cup holding in place to make sure there are no spills.
Our Cluck box also has a method of heating by using heating pads in the bottom, and also has a radiant barrel foil around it to keep heat in, but also keeps other heat out so the chicks don't overheat. Next slide.
In the future, we plan to put a patent on our box, ship chicks in it with Polaris poultry, ship to places outside of Alaska, the lower 48s, and Hawaii. Next slide.
We talked to many experts on chick shipping, such as Don Dyer from Polaris Poultry, Mick Murray Farms, Cass Rudy, a chicken owner, Steve Davila, the owner of Alaska Feed Company, Amber Lorenzana, a chick owner, Joey Cricks, a chick owner, and Tangi Bates from Alaska Natural Foods Farm. Next slide. Don Dyer told us that we needed to make our box heated. He said that with heating, the box will be perfect for shipping chickens in Alaska. Miss Tangi told us to make sure that the heating pad doesn't slide around. She said, other than that, our box is perfect. Alaska Feed Company has told us they love our idea and will let us take a free field trip to see the baby chicks in April. All the experts we talked to said it would be very helpful for chick shipping, and some even told us we should get a patent and copyright on it. Any questions?
That was perfect. Thank you, Gadget Girls. We'll get right into questions, starting with Peter and going in the same order that we did last time.
Thank you. Great presentation. Really cool idea, and glad to see that somebody's looking after the safety of these chicks as they're transported around. My question is sort of got two parts to it, but the first one is, are all those travel boxes that they use the same size, and the material that you would use inside it, what is that made out of? So are they all the same size, and what's the material that you would have to use?
So it depends on which box you buy from which company. And the foil around it is the same that we'd use for every box. It's the same as the heating pads and the pop-up cup holder.
Great, thank you.
All right. So this was really interesting. I've never thought about chick safety when it comes to like farming needs. And it is true, they have to come from somewhere when they're shipped over, and that's something to think about. The question that I had for you is whether, because you had mentioned the heat in Alaska goes up to 90 degrees, do you guys have any sort of mechanisms in place for when it gets too hot, or is it as simple as simply just removing the foil if it need be?
So the foil around your box keeps all the heat inside, but also make sure outside heat doesn't get in, keeping them just the right temperature so they won't overheat and they won't be cold.
All right, that's good then. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I was curious if the box would be able to be used more than once. Could it ship chicks multiple times, or is it kind of like a one-time use thing?
Yes, they're reusable.
All right, looks like we have some extra time, so we'll open it up to any of the judges that might have additional questions.
Yeah, this is Peter. When you spoke to the owners of the different stores, did you go as a group, or did you individually talk to them? And was it over the phone, Zoom, or in person?
It depended on the person. We went to Alaska Feed Company as a team, but sometimes we were not able to go as a team, and sometimes we had to email them or text them or call them.
That's kind of cool. That's a hard thing to do, is to go separately and then get the information back to the others, and sharing the knowledge. It's always hard when you're in a group. So it's good that you all know what you're doing and you're all able to get feedback. So.
Perfect. Looks like that ran us almost out of time. So thank you so much, judges and Gadget Girls. That was
Thank
a
you,
wonderful
judges.
presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, we'll take a light break, and I welcome you to our sponsor spotlight. Alaska 529 provides education-free savings plans that make it easy for parents and loved ones to save for any child's education. Accounts are tax-free for both expenses in and out of Alaska, though we naturally recommend UAF. Cub competitors placing first through third place will receive $2,000 in Alaska 529 scholarship awards. We will announce the recipients at the awards ceremony on Saturday, along with an additional winner randomly drawn from all youth competitors who did not make it to the semifinals. Additionally, new to this year is the Classroom of the Future Alaska 529 Award. This $2,000 award will go to the teacher of a Cub or junior competitor who submitted an idea as a part of a class project chosen at random. This award recognizes their commitment to leading students to innovation. So thank you, Alaska 529. All right, and for his second idea, Brooks will be presenting the heated shovel. All right, Brooks, can you see your slides? Perfect, and just give us a thumbs up when you're ready.
My idea was heated shovels. Next slide. The problem is, shovels are known for making your hands colder while you shovel because they're made of metal, and it's not fun. But shoveling should be enjoyable. because you do it all the time. So might as well have it enjoyable. Besides, you don't really want shoveling to not be fun. You want it to be fun since you have to do it so much. Next slide. We need to heat up the entire shovel from the handle down to the blade, and there can be cords or battery backpacks, so you can plug it in to do it, or you can charge it with a battery. Next slide. All inhabitants of areas with cold and snowy winters would benefit, and that estimate is 100 million people. Next slide. It will be made with, like, the heat will go through the handle, down the shaft, and through the blade. The hardest setting on the dial can be obtained by pressing a protected button so that it can melt ice and stuff. So then you won't have to try to pickaxe your way through the ice. And then we could partner with larger companies like Alaska Industrial Hardware or ACE Hardware to build and manufacture the prototype. And it would be built to be very lightweight, weatherproof, made in the USA, and a modern design. There would be color options, style options, and a strong warranty. Next slide. It will be successful because 100 million people need good shovels, and they don't have to only use the regular shovels. They need more options than just a regular cold shovel. And it can have a charging cord or a battery pack. And when it's warm, it lights up, and fun colors can be added to make shoveling more fun, especially where street lights do not exist, so you can be able to see and stuff while you're shoveling. Next slide. Did the time end?
All right, it looked like you made it to your last slide, but no worries. Now we'll throw it to the judges so they can ask you any questions about that. We'll start with Peter once again.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Brooks, for that presentation. Really cool to see a way to make shoveling fun. That makes me smile when someone says make shoveling fun. It can be tiring, especially in the cold winters that we have here in Alaska. I was wondering, had you had a thought of how you would provide the heat through a metal or a wooden shovel? What might be the way that the heat could move through the shovel itself if it got plugged into the power outside? Have you thought about what might be the electrics that could make that happen?
I haven't really thought about that, but I think that I should, and it will be a metal shovel because it would be pretty hard to hollow out the wooden one, because that could also, like, wood isn't really weatherproof. It would probably get moldy and stuff if it got too wet. So it would probably be metal. But that's the other part of the question I didn't really.
Thanks. That's the perfect example. You're right. It's the wooden one would have a problem with the heat. It would get moldy. You're right. It would have to be metal.
Awesome. So again, another really good idea. My hands are always freezing when I'm shoveling snow, no matter how many gloves I'm wearing. One question I had is whether you thought about isolating the heat at all in one particular part of the shovel. Because one thing for me is that if the snow is too wet, it gets too heavy. So I wouldn't want to melt it necessarily. Have you thought about that?
Um, Not exactly. I just thought that it would slide off the shovel easier instead of sticking to the shovel, and it would also melt the ice instead of having to try to break the ice while you're shoveling.
Okay, it
but I
would be
didn't
easier for
really
ice.
think about that. No.
Yeah. Something to think about, but yeah, you're right. It'd be good for ice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brooks. So I did a lot of shoveling in the dark this winter, and I know you mentioned lights and color options. But are you also thinking of like some sort of light to kind of help you shovel so you can see better?
Yeah, it would be like kind of like a flashlight attached to it, so it would shine where the shovel's going, so you could see what you're doing with the shovel. But it could also be like different colors and stuff. It doesn't have to be plain white.
That's pretty neat. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, we're nearly out of time. I'm not sure there's enough time for another question. So thank you, Brooks and judges. Another successful questioning round. For our next presentation, we have another sibling duo, Stellar and Solstice Gilbert, presenting their idea of Doggy Oasis. And we're gonna, oh, there they are. All right. Please remember to watch the 3-minute countdown clock. And are you able to see your slides?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Just give us a thumbs up when you're ready.
Good evening. I'm Stellar.
And I'm Solstice, and we're here to present our idea, the Doggy Oasis, which is a pet outhouse for winters in Alaska.
As we all know, winters in Alaska can be very tough on dogs, especially when it comes to going to the bathroom in temperatures below zero. Snowdrifts can block off bathroom areas and make dogs reluctant to go outside to go to the bathroom.
We experienced this with our own dog Chopper, who does not like to walk out on the snow and ice to go to the bathroom. Instead, she does her business on our porch, which is messy and very gross. We are sure there are other pet owners with similar experiences, and we want to offer them a solution.
Next slide, please. Our idea provides dogs with a comfortable and warm space to go to the bathroom outside. It also provides an easy cleanup for pet waste, which can turn into a big frozen yellow and brown mess.
The Doggy Oasis does this by using a heat trace, which is normally used to prevent sewage lines and wells from freezing. This is placed under grass bathroom pad and to provide a warm area for dogs to walk on and do their business.
The pad and heat trace sit in a pan, which is protected by the elements by a small tent with retractable sides. LED lights are also placed inside the tent so the dogs can see when it's dark outside. Also, the retractable sides of the tent make cleanup a snap for owners.
Our next step for the Doggy Oasis is to finish building our prototype for our dog Chopper to use next year. Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions? My face froze.
That was excellent. I think my dog would love Doggy Oasis, and I'm sure yours would too. We'll now throw it to the judges for any questions, starting with Peter.
Thank you for a great presentation. I'm sure my dog, that's probably a medium-sized dog, would love a Doggy Oasis as well. I always see him with his paws like this in the cold when it gets really cold. My question relates to keeping it clean. You showed your prototype with the artificial grass. How easy would your prototype be to keep clean for if you've got a dog that's going multiple times a day?
It would soak into the bathroom pad underneath. That's right here. And it's underneath the grass pad. That's where the pee would go. And then you would just have to dump off the poo.
Nice thoughts, but you're right. Yeah, the bathroom pad would really help on keeping it clean.
All right. So again, this is a really good idea. It would actually encourage me to get a dog if I didn't feel bad about leaving it in the cold Alaskan winters all the time. I know one question I would have. We have a really big backyard, but during wintertime, after we take out the snow, there's still not very much room to play. Have you thought about incorporating any toys at all or something to help the dog have some fun while it's in there?
Well, we could always get a bigger bathroom pad or just stick them together. That would work. And then you could put the toys in with, just put the toys in on one of the grass bathroom pads so the dog can have fun. And
Right, could always be bigger. All right, thank you.
So I know this idea is more for smaller dogs, but I know from experience that some bigger dogs don't like to brave the cold winters either. Do you think you could make it like in a bigger tent and on a bigger scale for larger dogs also?
Yes, we could do that. You just have to get a bigger pad, a bigger heat trace, and a bigger tent.
Awesome, thank you.
Looks like we have time for one more quick question for any judge that has one.
I'll jump in. Your image on your slides showed a particular color for the tent. Have you ideas on how you could make different colors for different owners or for different breeds of dog?
Yeah. Oh, Chelsea, you want to do this?
Well, you don't really gotta have a specific color. Like, you could always choose a different color. It doesn't always gotta be the same color. So yeah, you don't always gotta choose the same color. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, team and judges. Another wonderful round of questions. And now stepping into the screen for the third time, drum roll please, Brooks Penny and the Red Tide Detector app. And we're just waiting for him to be moved. Perfect. All right, Brooks, can you see your slide? All right, you know the drill. Just thumbs up when you're ready.
So this idea is the Red Tide Detector app. Next slide. The problem is that the red tide PSP or paralytic shellfish poisoning is a marine toxin disease and reported worldwide from Nigeria to Alaska. In Alaska, there was 54 outbreaks and 117 ill people from 1973 to 1992. It basically paralyzes you. So the Red Tide Detector, wait, next slide. Basically, it's an app that tells you when the red tide is, so you don't have to worry about eating the clams that could be infected or shellfish that could be infected with the red tide, because I don't think anyone would want to get paralyzed. So then it would basically be like the weather app on your phone, and you would look at that and see if the red tide is in your area, so then you would know if you should harvest and dig for the clams or if you should just not, because then a lot more people would be able to harvest clams and oysters and stuff. Next slide. Everyone, as you can see, the red dots are where all the infections and cases have been like all across the world. So basically everyone would benefit because more people would eat shellfish and there would be hardly any cases of it. Any. Next slide. It will be made with it can have stations or buoys floating in the water that are constantly testing it for red tide blooms to make sure no one gets sick from that. And it could be in partnership with NOAA and marine forecasting apps. And NOAA Alerts app and marine forecasting apps. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Brooks. It looks like you're out of time, but no worries. We're going to ask the judges to come back and ask their questions. Once again, we'll be starting in the same order with Peter.
Hi, Brooks. Great. Thanks for the presentation. It really demonstrates the issue and highlights the need. You showed that you would connect with NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. Have you thought of a way to incorporate people reporting that there is PSP, a red tide? How might that be added to your app?
They could text the app owners or something, or contact them and tell them that there's red tide in my area. Because I have a neighbor who has an oyster farm, and I know that they would like to not having to go out there and test it every day to know if it's safe to harvest their oysters or if it's not. And I hope that answered your question.
It did, yes. Thank you.
Hi again. So this is actually really cool because I had never heard of red tides before. I didn't know this was a thing, and it's really good to know it's a thing now, so I don't just go fishing without looking into anything like this. One question that I had for you is whether you think that this would affect more companies and them going out and fishing, or local fishermen who might just be trying to catch fish and not realizing, like me, that red tide is a thing that can happen.
Red tide can only happen on shellfish, just letting you know, and it could and anyone could use the app. Businesses could do the oyster farming and shellfish farming as well. It doesn't have to just be people, it can be anyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your idea, Brooks. So it's really neat that your app sends out a notification when you should stay away from the shellfish, but do you think it could also send out a notification when it's safe to go after the shellfish?
Yeah. It would, yeah. It can also, if it's 50%, if it's not that high of risk, you know that if you eat too much, you could get it because there's less stuff in the ocean and less stuff in the creatures. It depends on how much you eat sometimes, but if it's really high, there's a really high risk, then probably shouldn't harvest at all. And yeah, I would send out a notification for when it's safe, when it's medium, and when it's high. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Great
Thank you.
answers. Thank you, Brooks, and thank you, judges. All right, well, we give Brooks just a moment to take a drink or grab a snack. This competition would not be possible without the amazing support of our donors. Besides a great experience, our Cub competitors are receiving cash awards from $50 to $500, medals or ribbons, and AIC backpacks. Kinross Fort Knox makes this possible with their generous support of the Cub and Junior divisions. They've been a supporter since our first year of AIC in 2009. So Kinross is a founding sponsor, and we thank them very much. We very much appreciate it. All right. To finish out the night, we welcome back Brooks with his reverse osmosis water bottles. All right, you know what to do. Can you see your slides? Perfect. And just give us a thumbs up and we'll start the clock.
My idea was reverse osmosis water bottles to rid toxins in the water. Next slide. You probably didn't know this, but there's metals, medicines, lawn care chemicals, plastic, and more in the water that we drink from taps. And next slide. Reverse osmosis water bottles will contain fewer contaminants and pollutants, lower sodium, no parasites, bacteria, and microbes, and it's safer for all humans. 95% of those would be eliminated. Reverse osmosis is basically it's a membrane and pressure on the water on the top of the membrane, and then once it pushes the water through, all 95% of all the bacteria and stuff in the water is eliminated. And next slide. Everyone would benefit from this idea because most people drink 1 to 2 liters daily, and there are 70 billion people in the world drinking water daily, and more than half of all Americans are concerned about their drinking water, and everyone across the world deserves clean drinking water that is pure and accessible. Next slide. It will be made just like we've already made systems like under the sink, reverse osmosis, and on countertops. It would just be in a water bottle. And they can be washed in a dishwasher, and they won't rust, they won't be made out of plastic, and they'll be long lasting. Next slide. It will be successful because 1/3 of Americans rely on bottled water, 1/3 also drink straight from the tap, and 1/3 use a water filter system because of the chemicals in the water and stuff. Currently, 4.3 billion individual drink 1 liter water bottles are sold annually. And we're globally trying to cut back on the 200 billion plastic water bottles that go into the ocean eventually and stuff.
Thank you so much, Brooks. It looks like you're out of time, but that was very informative. So now I'll hand it off to Peter to start us off with judges' questions.
Hi there, Brooks. Thanks for that, and thanks for highlighting the need for some way to provide safe drinking water for all of us. I guess my question is, one of your images showed the unfiltered and the filtered water. Does the water get poured through a membrane in the bottle? And then can that be added to existing water bottles, or would you have to buy a new water bottle with this capability?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, of course. With the membrane, is the membrane at the top of the bottle? How does the water get filtered?
It needs pressure, so I think it can run through the tap, and like the pressure from it going down might be able to make it through, and then it will get filtered through, and the water on the bottom would be safe. The water on the water on the top would not be safe, but the water down on the bottom would be totally safe. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. Again, thank you for the presentation. It would be very useful to have on-the-fly filters to drink water on. I know you had mentioned specifically tap water as an example for something you shouldn't necessarily be drinking all the time directly, especially not everywhere in the world. Do you think that this filtration would still work if, for example, I was by a lake and I was thirsty? Would I be able to use the water bottle to then drink from the filtered water, or would it only be safe for tap water?
I think it would be safe for everything since it gets rid of 95%, and I'm pretty sure that they use those kind of reverse osmosis filters in water from rivers as well. I've been on caribou hunts with my family, and we use a water filter when we go through rivers, and I'm pretty sure that's reverse osmosis. Also, just to let you know, they have filtered water bottles, but they're using this activated charcoal thing. So my idea was so that people would have options and not only have to use that.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brooks. That was actually my question about the difference between the filtered water bottles that exist right now and the difference between this reverse osmosis one. So you almost answered it before I asked it, so I'll ask a quick one. What do you think is going to be the most challenging part of making this water bottle?
Probably the water filter part of it. I'm not exactly sure how we do that. That's probably going to be the hardest part.
Thank you so much, Brooks and judges. And thank you to all of the Cub competitors. It really is a big deal to make it to the AIC semifinals, and we appreciate all of the hard work and creativity you've put into your ideas. And I am genuinely impressed with the presentations we had this evening. They were all amazing and blew me out of the water. So tune in on Saturday at 1 p.m. for the AIC awards ceremony, where the top 3 competitors will return to present again, and the winners will be announced. Competitors, you'll be notified tomorrow by an email and follow-up phone call whether you made it to the finals. But wait, who wants a fun and sunny vacation? During the awards ceremony, there will also be a giveaway to audience members for 2 round-trip tickets to anywhere Alaska Airlines flies. For more information and method of entry, attend the awards ceremony and we'll let you know. Plus, one of the ideas presented tonight will win the Chris Merrock All-State Fan Favorite Lego Award, cutest little Lego award I've ever seen, and $100. Please tell your friends and family to cast their vote on the AIC website before Thursday at midnight. Tomorrow night, join us at 5:30 p.m. for the Junior Division semifinals for youths aged 13 through 17 years old. Wednesday and Thursday will be for the main division semifinals for adults 18 and older. So, to end the night, thank you so much, judges, competitors, and our audience, and of course, our sponsors. Have a great night.
Recording stopped.